A 506.
Welcome to episode 3 of season 3 of the First of All We Read literacy series. I'm Leslie Braxton Campbell. I'm a Spring 21 initiate of the Theta Iota Lambda chapter. This series is brought to you by the brothers of Theta Iota Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and the Lee B. Revel Scholarship and Mentoring Foundation. So for those of you joining for the first time, I want to thank you. Your support is definitely appreciated. For those of you who have been with us from the beginning, thank you for your consistent support. Today I'm excited, elated, all the things for the book that we're going to be reading. Today's story is Stacy's Extraordinary Words, written by Stacey Abrams, illustrated by Kit Thomas. This book is about Stacy, who is a young girl who loves words. She loves spelling them. They take her to a new place. But she faces a challenge in this book. And we're going to get into that. But before we do, I want to thank our supporters. You keep us going every other week, right? So thank you to all the local artists, authors, educators like myself, parents, families, friends, and the youth who march onward and upward, and of course, our Divine Nine family, right? This program is brought to you in support of our national Go to High School, Go to College initiative. Right, we continue the work and support of Black and Brown students, supporting their academic journey through literacy. And as we look to continue supporting young men in our community with financial resources towards attaining a further education, of course, we ask for your support. If you would like to support this program or one of our scholarships, please feel free to donate on our website, springfieldalphas.com, or Cash App, Alpha Scholarship, and I'm pretty sure one of the brothers will drop that in the comments right there. And it'll be located in the chat as well. Thank you, Brother Lightfoot. Right, so now we will begin our story. I see we got a lot of folks on here today. So hello. All right, so Stacy's Extraordinary Words. Make sure we can all see. So let's get started. So Stacy loved words. She loved to read and write and say them. She adored fun words, long words, unusual words, words with wonderful histories and weird combinations. Whenever Stacy learned a new word, it was like making a new friend. First, she would find the dictionary. Then, she would look up where the word had come from and learn its secrets. Did any of its letters hide and stay quiet, like the P in ptarmigan, a bird that lives in cold, northern regions? Or were they strong, like the I in bright? Let's see. Next, she wrote the word in her special notebook of extraordinary words. She practiced how to arrange the letters just right, how to sound them out. That's because she loves spelling interesting words most of all. With her favorite words, she would try to remember their quirks. What made them special? When she saw a super long word, like onomatopoeia, a funny word to describe the sounds of other words, she had to jump and sway. Words like duckling made her grin. Persnickety tickled her tongue. Sometimes Stacy thought that words understood her better than people did. When she sat by herself during recess, they never teased her about being quiet or about being clumsy when she fell, or awkward when the joke in her head came out wrong. When she read books under the covers, words never told her to go to sleep. Words understood why she was grumpy or anxious. In fact, words helped her explain what she was feeling, if only to herself. One day, Stacy's teacher, Mrs. Blakesley, asked her to wait after class. She squirmed in her seat because she was afraid, petrified. Another way to say she was really, really afraid. Usually, the teacher only kept a student after class because of a blunder, also known as a mistake. Stacy! Mrs. Blakesley called Stacy to her desk, and she returned her spelling test, a big red 100 at the top of the page. The teacher asked her, "Do you know what a spelling bee is?" Stacy responded, "A really smart insect?" The teacher smiled. A spelling bee is a contest where students compete to spell as many words correctly as they can. I would like for you to participate. Stacy couldn't believe it. Who else will be there? I am nominating you and Jake. The spelling bee is next week. Jake doesn't look too excited right there at all. Let's see what happens. Stacy's excitement suddenly evaporated. Jake was not her friend. He was a bully who knew words too. Just yesterday, he had used a complicated word that made Suki cry. Last week, she heard him say something crude to Zivko about his accent. Stacy thought it was stupendous that Zivko knew words in 2 different languages. Stacy knew as many words as Jake did. She wanted to say something when he said mean things to her friends, but she was intimidated, scared, because sometimes he said hurtful things to her too. She wished she had used her clever words to help Suki or Zivko or herself by speaking up. Perhaps at the spelling bee, she would be braver. At the spelling bee, she would not be silent. All week long, Stacy studied her spelling words from school and the ones she kept in her notebook. Sesquipedalian? Still, the spelling bee felt as far away as the longest word she had ever seen. Sesquipedalian, a fancy way to describe words with lots of syllables. That's a big word, right? But we practice, and practice makes perfect. The days of the week were monotonous, torturous, and sluggish. Every hour felt longer and longer. Stacy wished for the week to whisk its days away. Finally, the morning of the spelling bee arrived. Stacy walked into the county library with her mother, holding her hand tight. Mama gave her a big hug and whispered into her ear, "Just do your best. Your dad and I are very proud of you." Stacy followed her teacher to the room where the other students waited until it was time to go. Then they went on to a stage. The announcer explained the rules. Kids stepped up to the microphone one by one to get their word. If they spelled it right, the announcer would tell them so. But if they made a mistake, a bell would ring. The student would have to leave the stage. No do-overs. Stacy's turn finally came. Her stomach ached with nervous energy, but she was ready. Say the word, dither. Sound it out, dither. Spell it, dither. That is correct. The announcer called on the next student and the next. Promptly, enormous, shutter, transportation, craggy, reception, village. Finally, only 3 contestants remained, Stacy and Jake and a girl from another school. The girl went up to spell her word. Ding! She had spelled chocolate without the second O. We are down to our final 2 contestants, the announcer told the audience. Jake took a long time to spell accept. Stacy got squeezed, but she remembered the lost letters she adored like Q and Z. Jake tackled clamoring. Stacy conquered disengage. Then Jake defeated geometry. Stacy returned to the podium ready to do the battle with her next word. She repeated it, she pronounced it, she spelled it. INSTANTANIOUS. Instantaneous. As she waited for the announcer, the bell dinged. I'm sorry, that is incorrect. The proper spelling is Stacy couldn't hear the rest of what he said. Tears filled her eyes, but she stayed on stage like a good sport as Jake got his trophy, and she received her second place ribbon. Everyone congratulated Jake, and so did she. Good job! Jake laughed and rolled his eyes. At least I know the difference between I and E. We don't really like Jake all that much, do we? Stacy felt embarrassed, but she refused to let Jake make her cry. Well, I misspelled my word, but I do know how to be courteous. You should try it. She turned away and went to find her mom. If today were like one of the stories Stacy loved most, she would have won. And Jake would have learned that words were a gift that shouldn't be used to hurt people. But things didn't always happen that way in real life. Sometimes change was harder, and it didn't happen right away. Stacy felt a hand brush at her cheek. It opened her fist and smoothed out the ribbon. Mama? She put a butterscotch candy on top, Stacy's favorite kind. You okay? I lost, but you came so far, nearly to the very end. Not far enough. I got the letter wrong, and I didn't win. I failed. You only fail if you stop, her mother reminded her. If you know there's a word for that, you know it too. Stacy thought about one of her favorite words, perseverance. Perseverance. Exactly. So let's go home and learn more words. There's always next year. Stacy imagined all the words she had yet to meet. New words and new ways to speak up and help others. She'd find them all. No, Mama, there's always tomorrow. And Stacy went on to graduate from Spelman College and to be an elected official and run for governor of Georgia. So thank you all for joining us for Stacy's Extraordinary Words. And we look forward to seeing you again at our next First of All We Read. Thank you.